Okay, I think um, this is the participant that we have so far, and we'll admit people if they're joining. But we can get started right now. My name is Sue. I'm the ASNA president-elect this year, and Amy, along with me, she's the VP admins that will be monitoring this session as well. We're extremely excited to welcome Bill this sessions. And Bill, you can take the floor from here and introduce yourself.
All right, fantastic. Well, it's my pleasure. Really enjoyed being in Niagara Falls for the ASNA conference in January. That was fantastic. My name is Bill Marella. I'm the CEO of ACTEX Learning. I'll get into that in a minute. A little bit of housekeeping. Happy to take questions at any time. So you can either put them in the chat, although maybe Amy, you can monitor those, and I won't necessarily be monitoring them. Or just ask, and I'll be happy to just let you know, like, hey, I'll talk about that later. Great question. If I'm going to address it a little bit later. So without any further ado here, I did mention to Amy and Sue that I'm unexpectedly working from home, so I just want to try to get my slide advancing. 1 second. Okay. Um, all right. As I said, my name is Bill Marella. As CEO of ACTEX, been doing this for, over 25 years. I love working with young people. I have three kids, all in their 20s. I think it's a super exciting time. You are, going to hit all these kinds of milestones and achieve all these things. So I love it. I also wrote a book. It's a free ebook on our website. I'll have a slide at that towards the end. But if you type in my last name on our website or the actuarial bookstore, it'll come up. But I think actexlearning.com is the easiest place to get it. And it's called The Actuarial Career Getting Started. So a lot of what I'm going to talk about today is from that book. Hopefully, you guys are all familiar with ACTEX Learning and with the ASM brand of study manuals. We do it all. The study manuals, the video instruction, online courses, our huge database of questions called Goal, and we have professor support for everything. Everything that we sell uh, is available on Actuarial University, and it integrates everything. So it's really cool. It's all driven by keyword. So if you haven't checked it out, I think you'll be pretty impressed. Kind of like Wikipedia, you can drill down and jump to your videos, to the planner, to the flashcards, to the study manual, to the goal questions. And what we try to do is just support every type of student. Hey, I love videos. Great. Start with the videos. Hey, I love the study, text. Then we support it in that way. Maybe one of my last kind of, slides about our company is a lot of people don't know that we're actually a benefit corporation. So we are not driven by shareholders, but by stakeholders. And you guys are our stakeholders. So we are mission driven, legally obligated to do so. So advancing affordable access to actuarial education globally is our mission. So we're very different from some of the other names that you know in this space. And a good example of the types of things we do is we're working with the United Nations and Milliman to teach statistics and math professors around the world how to teach actuarial science. So those are the types of projects we take on that, others that are more profit driven, aren't going to take on. So we've been doing this for 50 years. We have just world-class instructors. I think you guys are super familiar with Ambrose Lowe and our PA material, but we have a lot of Canadian instructors, including Sam Broverman and Johnny Lee and all that. So we're quite global. So again, everyday affordability is how we price our products, and if you aren't familiar with us, I think you'll be quite pleased. One of the cornerstones of our product is a giant database of exam questions. I think this number is low. We're probably over 30,000 right now, but you get to, select the level of difficulty, if you want to practice, if you want a simulated exam. It has Goal Score, which is our predictive and diagnostic tool, and it has video instruction optionally. So it's very, very affordable tool, and you'll find the pricing quite attractive. I am, whoops, sorry about that, guys. I was just going to try to we often do a drawing for 90 days access to goal. And it's sometimes it's kind of a larger group. So I'm going to just randomly pick um, a knot and an Anoth, is that right? With the chess pieces as the winner of our drawing because I liked your I liked your image of the chess pieces. So if you're interested to receive 90 days of free access to Goal, I'll connect you with Clement Moki, who's listed there. You can maybe reach out, through Sue or Amy, and we'll get you connected. How does that sound?
That sounds great. Thank you.
All right, congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, let's get into it. I don't, oftentimes if I'm in person, I'll poll people. Like, how many people are freshmen, sophomore, first year, second year? Um, Really doesn't matter. If you're a first year, this is just as appropriate for you as it is, second, third, fourth year. Building your personal brand. This actually, even as you enter the profession, you've got to be thinking about building your personal brand. So I'm going to give you kind of a brief overview of sort of building your brand, preparing your brand, because I think I can give you some insightful tips there, and then launching your brand, which is sort of more like networking and interviewing. Okay. So all of this is on brand building and then communicating your brand out to those who, would hire you for internship, co-op, full-time position. All right. So building your personal brand, I really divide this up into the three steps that I talked about. The first step is passing exams, building your brand. So passing exams, developing difference making technical skills to put on your CV, and pursuing communication and leadership opportunities. We're going to talk a lot about the last two of those bullets. Then preparing your brand. Well, if you're building it right, then preparing it becomes a lot easier. Resume or CV and interview skill development. And then something that a lot of students fall down on is learning everything you can about the profession. So we're going to spend some extra time on that. And then launching your brand, which as I discussed is sort of networking, formulating a search strategy, things of that nature. All right. If you take nothing else away from this uh, presentation, take this away, that exams are not enough, that you need to be obtaining additional skills. And you need to, pursue those skills that employers are seeking. So this slide here is kind of prior to an internship or co-op. And so what I'm kind of commenting on here is, okay, you pass your first exam. Okay, you have a 20% chance maybe of landing that internship or first time position. Pass another exam, 10% higher. Now you're at 30%. But just as important are things like communication skills, leadership, technical skills, and then something I'm going to call other, because all of you have something unique that might make you stand out from your peers. And it's pretty competitive. Most of you guys are at, one of the, I think it's 11 Canadian universities. There's a lot of students there, and everyone's kind of focused on like, exams, exams, exams. And I'm here to tell you, exams are a starting point, but they really are not the end point. So looking at the slide a little further, I want to point out one other thing is as you pass more exams, there is diminishing returns to, borrow like an economics, term, diminishing returns to each one. So that if you're passing 3, 4, 5 exams, which is not as, not super uncommon with the Canadian programs, Um, that's great. But it's not necessarily what's going to help you have the most employment options when you're looking for a full-time job. Okay, things are fairly similar uh, after you have an internship. I hope I don't have to tell anybody or convince anybody here how important an internship is. Super important, and as you see on this slide, I'm giving it a real heavy weight of 25%. And frankly, all the other items are, similarly quite important. Just because you have an internship doesn't mean that you don't still need to be working on communication and leadership skills. I will say that, of course, by having an internship, hopefully you've developed stronger communication skills, learned more about just general business acumen, developed some, stronger spreadsheet skills or modeling skills through that internship. It all kind of works nicely together. All right, what are we talking about when we say communication skills? Well, it's writing skills, it's presentation skills, it's interview skills for sure, negotiation skills. Most of you may not have a lot of, opportunity to be negotiating things, but maybe you came to the actuarial science degree from as a second career or something like that, where you were negotiating, or maybe you're a volunteer for ASNA and you're negotiating with a vendor or something like that. That's a key actuarial skill because actuaries are sort of the center of all kinds of negotiations with either the CFO or the company or a regulator who's outside the company, things of that nature. So communication skills really important, and often listening are too often overlooked. Listen, actively listen, they'll call it. So, developing those skills are really important. Now, why are they important? They're important because actuaries are often dinged for talking over people's heads, for being too technical. So, what employers are looking for, and what I want you to be able to show, what I want you to be able to develop and show on your resume is the ability to communicate technical content to non-technical staff. That's what actuaries are asked to do all day long when they're not maybe within the actuarial department, which makes sense, right? So they're looking for that skill in you today or that potential in you today. And that's why you want to be working on this. This is how you can separate yourself from somebody else who's passed 4 exams. Technical skills. I don't think most of these are going to really surprise you. Um, Accounting I have down here because, a solid understanding of accounting is helpful. It's part of the VEE for the SOA. It's, financial reporting, valuation, reserving, it all touches on accounting. You'll be interfacing with accounting if you're in one of those roles a little bit. So overall, the technical skills are important because they give you the ability to contribute to projects more quickly. And again, if you have demonstrated this on your resume, you will have shown a potential employer that you have the ability to contribute and kind of hit the ground more quickly because you have a higher level of Excel skills or Python skills, things of that nature. Leadership skills, and I include here demonstrated initiative. And I really want to emphasize that because I think it's just as important. Not everyone can be an officer in their actuarial club. Um, Not everyone can be a leader of a campus or community organization. However, if you broaden it out, very well, maybe you can. So you could get some type of leadership responsibilities on your resume. I would encourage you to seek it out. But equally important are activities that demonstrate initiative. And an example of that might be going to Coursera and taking a course on, VLOOKUP or, building, macros or what have you in Excel. If you, and then putting that on your resume so they see it, by pursuing coursework outside of your regular coursework, you are really demonstrating the initiative to develop the skill sets that employers are looking for. So when I'm hiring somebody and I see somebody has done that, I'd like that makes me take notice. Okay, this person's a go-getter. This person's thinking ahead, and that will help you stand out. I'll just mention just some other skills. Again, if you came into this profession or you're a different major, maybe a chemistry major, there could be some transferable industry knowledge from a prior career. Many of you might tutor. I see that regularly on resumes. We'll talk about that maybe in a little more detail later. That's definitely good to get on there because you're communicating difficult concepts to people that don't necessarily, grasp them that easily. And then any type of transferable training that you might have or projects, whether they be school related projects or not. So ultimately, if you have the ability to leverage some of your life experience into your actuarial career or resume, that you really want to think that through. All right, some key points here just to kind of summarize what I'm saying is that recruiters view your actuarial exams as a given, as a starting point. And so, in my view, it is often better to take a communications or a technical skills class than another actuarial class or exam prep class. So I encourage you to devote more time to activities that build leadership, interpersonal skills, teamwork skills, again, getting teamwork on your resume, or take technical or other online classes outside of the university, demonstrating initiative. In my view, the results of these will be a much higher return on these non-actuarial investments. And as I'm going to talk about in a second, you're going to be put into the yes pile more often. And I'll explain why that is. Uh, Aside from that, it will have you be better prepared to interview and you'll be more likely to receive a job offer because you'll have the skills needed for your internship or your first job. I mean, not all of them, but you'll be better prepared and you'll be able to talk about how you're prepared. So it's just a way to stand out. Are there any questions on that before I go into this sort of example? They can always come later. All right. This example is just really simplified here. You see these 6 resumes, and really it's a mismatch or a mismatch of some people have passed 3 exams, 1 exam, 2 exams. Some have a lot of communication skills on their resume. Some have some technical skills. Some have have an internship. Some don't, etc. And these days, everybody applies online, right? So it's all going into the portal, and all 6 resumes come in. Well, basically, first now, these days, a bot is looking at everything. So it's it's looking for these keywords. But let's say you get past the bot, you get to human resources. So you want to be put, in the yes pile. So individuals that even if they've passed a number of exams, if they're not on their resume showing that they've developed these non-exam related skills, then they're most likely going to be filtered into the, not likely pile. If you show that you have, well, okay, 1 or 2 exams, I've got some technical skills demonstrated, I've got an internship, etc., you're put in the maybe pile. But you guys want to be in the yes pile. So you want to be checking all the boxes because a human resource person does not know what an actuary does not understand how, difficult your courses are and how impressive it is that you've passed, 4 exams, and it is. they're checking a box. So they are looking for all of these, non exam related skills that they've been told to look for. And they've been told to look for these things because, again, they're trying to identify future leaders for their company. So they want to see today on your resume, because you've been building your brand and you've been spending, time since your freshman year building your brand, building your skill sets. They want to see that on your resume. So they know this person has potential to be a future leader at my company. So again, this slide, I guess I went ahead of it a little bit here, but basically, you want to get into this yes pile. And so individuals that are meeting this criteria are far more likely to do that. All right, so that's building your brand. Now I want to kind of tell you what you need to do next. So maybe this is more for, our sophomore or, well, second year, third year, et cetera. Resume and interview skill development and learning everything you can about the profession, the career, and the profession. Now, first years, you can also be doing all of this, especially learning everything you can about the profession. And then we'll talk about launching. Okay. So as I mentioned in the earlier slides, you want to be adding these brand building skills to your resume. And, these are the same skills basically, but I want to point out, what are they specifically? Tutoring is really good for communication skills. And I think that one of the things, which I'm not sure if we're going to talk about it or have time, but one thing I want to really point out here is that you want to just be saying not what you've done in a very generic way. You want to specifically be saying that you are helping fellow students understand difficult calculus concepts and prepare for examinations, etc. Like you want to get in that you are helping students with difficult concepts, right? And that should be on your resume. Obviously, business writing skills. There are case study competitions, both within your university and outside of your university. Highly recommend that you participate in those. Those also can, help with your, presentation skills or public speaking skills, as can, club activities. Negotiation skills, we talked about a little bit, and listening skills. So again, your goal is that, and when you're writing the bullets on your resume, you want to be be communicating to them that you have the ability to communicate technical content to non-technical staff. The technical skills are really important to have on your resume, but I don't want you to just list them at the bottom. You can kind of summarize that you have Excel, VBA, Python skills, but more importantly, you need to be weaving these into the bullets themselves. Used Excel to, and whatever it is, model this, developed Python model with the goal of X. So you have to make sure that you're weaving all of your technical skills into how you used them. And that can also be sometimes a classroom project. Leadership, teamwork, demonstrated initiative. I think we've talked about this, but as an employer, I really love to see demonstrated initiative, and a lot of these programming competitions, we didn't talk about that. Python programming, course or competition, that would be something that would stand out, both from a skills development as well as taking the initiative. And a lot of these courses are, very, very inexpensive. The goal here of these leadership, teamwork, and initiative skills is to demonstrate your fellow level managerial potential. They're really honed in on that. If you can't demonstrate that, you're not going to be put in the yes pile. You might get put in the maybe pile, but our goal here is to get in the yes pile. All right, check the time. When you're preparing your resume, I want you to consider the three audiences. First of all, you've got the online portals, those scanning bots. They are really looking for keywords, right? They're not obviously natural, they're not intelligent per se, right? Might be AI, but they are scanning. So you have to consider that. That's why I talk about weaving your skill sets into each bullet. Then the next audience is HR staff. We talked about that. They kind of have a checklist. And then, of course, the actuarial professionals that will be giving your resume a more detailed review. So you want to communicate to all three audiences. Now, some of the keywords, and I'm happy to give this presentation, to you, Sue, or to Amy. Some of the keywords that the bots and the HR people and the actuarial professionals are going to be looking for are going to be these types of keywords. And it's obviously not an exhaustive list, but it's a pretty good list and fairly common for you to see in a junior level actuary or somebody who might have completed an internship or a co-op. A few other resume tips so that you can kind of, again, prepare your brand. Clearly explain each bullet. I think too often brevity, trying to keep things short, gets in the way of not fully explaining how you use that, Excel to accomplish what, and what the result, or what the result was. Be careful of using any company specific terms because people won't know what they are. Obviously, you can use acronyms as long as they're well known, like SQL or something like that. And looks like I have a typo there, but include let's see, but include the specific type of analysis that you might be doing. So the goal with each bullet is to effectively communicate what you did and how you did it. Those are far more powerful than kind of a, sort of a laundry list or something that just kind of explains, I did this. Well, okay, you did that, but how did you do it? What tools did you use? What were the results? Which is the next point here. So if you can talk about the results or what the possible next steps were for somebody that you handed the project off to, it would, it's going to show the impact of what you did and that you understood the goal of the work. All right, moving to interviewing. Your resume sets you up. So you build your brand. That helps set up your resume. The resume helps prepare you for your interview. So you've got hopefully some very attractive bullets that you're proud of, things you've done, skills you have, leadership opportunities that you've taken. And what you want to do in preparing is determine, let's say, ideally 5 to 6 interview kind of key talking points that directly align with the employer's hiring criteria, right? um, and then you're going to use those talking points to demonstrate that you have that future, potential to be a fellow at their company. And you're going to weave those talking points into each interview by looking for opportunities to kind of steer the communication. So if Excel comes up, you know, you can say, well, yes, I've never used Excel in that way, but I did use Excel this way. And you explain, so you're actively listening right? A term I used earlier, actively listening for opportunities to then bring in, a relevant point of something that you've accomplished. And so preparing those key things that you want to get across to this interviewer is really important. And the best way to do that is to practice. I can stop there for any questions.
Yeah, I just wanted to quickly jump in with a question from the chat from Abigail. Do you have any online course recommendations to build our technical skills?
They change with some frequency. I used to do that, and then it got kind of out of date quickly. Um, we do at ACTEX we have some like on Python and GitHub. Um, the Infinite Actuary has some, but they're going to probably be more expensive. What you find is like ours is Python for actuary. So if it's going to be tailored to the actuarial profession, then typically it costs a little more money. But if you went to Coursera and reviewed what they had, I think you'd find pretty affordable options. So you have to depends a little bit on what your price point is. Um, but I think both are attractive opportunities. So, and it's not in this presentation, but I will comment that I'm a big fan of CAS Student Central, which is a terrific thing to do over the summer. And the SOA now has, I think they call it their affiliate program, and that they're trying to build out a lot of those same sort of skills classes and things of that nature. And then my guess is they probably have done a very good job of that. The CIA, I'm not as familiar with what they have, but if you start with the CAS, I think you'd be also impressed with the free resources that they have there. And the SOA is free too, and I'm sure the CIA is free as well. That's a good question.
Sounds good. Thank you for your recommendations.
My pleasure. Okay. Um, while you're doing that, you should also be learning about the profession. And this I call my advanced tip because it's overlooked by too many actuarial students. I think there's a lot of demands on your time, and I recognize that. Um, Exams, trying to build these skills, by preparing for interviews, etc. Um, but if you can, and again, start early, start to learn everything that you can about the profession and the insurance industry, you will really be able to set yourself apart. Whether it be consulting or insurance, if it's pension or life, doesn't really matter. It's a very dynamic profession. And the industries are always changing, and there's always, whether it be a global pandemic or super low interest rates for 20 years, or catastrophes like fires or climate change. I mean, there are things always impacting this profession, and that's what makes it interesting. And so, uh, setting yourself up to read or listen to podcasts, or, these things to learn more about it will help you improve your CV. It'll help you set yourself apart, especially during the interview. So, and then of course it can prepare you, well for your first job. So I'll dive into that in a second. In advance, I can't remember if it was Amy or Sue, but they sent something about kind of the impact of AI and where the profession is headed. And so I put in a couple of these slides as well, just in advance of our presentation. But this is also something about learning about the profession. So obviously, AI is, impacting every industry, every profession. Um, and data science has been impacting actuarial science, for the last, 10 plus years. And so you want to be thinking about and reading about uh, these types of technologies and new types of analyses, so that you can kind of future-proof your skills. And that's as true today as it's going to be in 10 years from now. So, learning about data science and how actuaries are integrating these tools, because historically actuaries would generally have small data sets and they had to kind of extrapolate, right? And now we've got these enormous data sets, especially on the property casualty side, and they have to make sense of them. So it's a pretty different skill set than the traditional actuarial skill set. So, just being up on AI and machine learning, neural networks, et cetera, can certainly help within an interview situation. One of the exciting things about AI is the enhanced predictive modeling that it's going to bring about, or it already is, the improved accuracy of forecasting. So this is, well, not the holy grail, but it's it's a big step forward. And so, learning about these things, telematics, for example, in the P&C side, getting all that information from your car, real-time data. These are things you want to be reading about. And when you get in a conversation with someone from industry, who is excited about these, and you're excited about these things, you're going to find that that interview goes really well. So start today. Also, we were talking about future fellows, and how everybody's looking, for that skill set today. Think about what's happening with with the actuarial profession. Is it's the forecast is really for it to become even more integrated with sort of the business strategy and the non-traditional actuarial areas. And so, again, being somebody who's interested in developing your business acumen, and showing that on your resume or through your interviews would be very helpful. And then there's some exciting, I'm calling them newish industries. They're sort of, new flavors of an existing theme, but healthcare analytics, climate risk modeling, fintech, cybersecurity, these types of things, are creating some new opportunities for actuaries. And I, recommend that you're reading about them. And then I do think that as some of the more kind of traditional, mundane actuarial roles might be eventually done more by AI or other automation, I think that the role of actuaries who really understand, everything about modeling, I mean, you have to have a very strong foundation in that, can play more of a governance kind of role, model oversight, risk mitigation, making sure that, there's no errors, introduced into the financial models, the risk models. So it's kind of an exciting area. So where do you do this? How do you do this? It's easy and it's free. There's some podcasts, but generally, I think most of the items, are available, more by signing up for, free trade publications. These are typically, everything's available electronically. Contingencies is super well known. Actuarial Review, the Actuary, plan consultant for on the benefits, retirement side. There's a lot of these free industry. These are, I should probably say that they're email newsletters. They just come right into your email, and you can kind of, scroll them when you're, waiting to, for an appointment, a doctor's appointment or something like that, So there's a lot of different ways you can kind of have information at your fingertips, by just, subscribing. I'll also comment, and this is more as much for interviewing as anything else. I'm sure absolutely every person here that goes into an interview, looks up the company and reads about them, and maybe, tries to find out a little bit about, who's on the interview, schedule and what their role is at the company, right? But, you'd be surprised. A lot of people don't, let's say it's a life insurer. Like they don't go in and say, just do a simple Google search or, ChatGPT, what's the life insurance industry, individual life insurance, industry forecast for 2025 and 2026? what are the trends? What's going on? What's happening? What's happening that, and also a year in review for the life insurance industry so that you understand what's been impacting their pricing or their reserves or, things of that nature. And that is just a far better way to prepare. Now, if you've been doing that all along, based on what I was saying, kind of learning about the profession, then you'll have a much deeper understanding and you'll be able to pull from more, articles and things that you've read during the interview. But at the very least, really do some research into what is impacting the actuarial profession, in particular, uh, but also the life insurance industry, or if it's, auto, whatever it is, please do your research, forecast and year in review. Society websites, I mentioned these earlier. They're terrific, and I highly recommend that. And then if your university, offers the Wall Street Journal, or Canadian business publications for free, I would recommend that, again, you sign up for those. A lot of universities do. The Wall Street Journal, is just one of the very best paid publications, but hopefully you guys get it for free. All right, that's kind of an overview of the first two steps. Any questions there? We can talk a little bit about networking, or we can, um, we could pause it there and just answer questions. I'm fine with either.
Yeah, there's one question from the audience. Do you have any recommendations on how to learn Excel or Power Query? I.e., if you are on a co-op terms and your team use Excel and Power Query a lot.
I don't specifically. That's I don't. I have no other way to answer that. Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Apologize.
Gotcha.
Yep. I'll just talk a little bit about networking, but I do want to leave time for other questions. Let's see. Um, I'm going to jump over some of these things here and just maybe um, get to some of the key points. Um, if you do join SOA, CIA, CAF membership, their student membership, I would definitely put that on your resume and definitely check out what they offer and participate. In fact, the CAS offers a mentorship program. I forgot about that. I don't know if the SOA does. And the CIA, is just a terrific organization. So I'm certain you'll be checking them out as well. There are also a lot of associations, like, the International Association of Black Actuaries, Latino Actuaries, Asian Actuaries, Canadian Actuaries. Hey, you guys made the list, and more. Definitely encourage you to reach out to the appropriate organizations. They're all about networking. I mean, that's basically, trying to educate and help connect people is what is part of their core mission. So, I could not recommend that enough. And again, put that on your resume. Um, your alumni networks can be very powerful. But if you're going to reach out to them and you don't know them, really, I'm just going to encourage you to personalize the email or personalize the LinkedIn request and express, an interest, or express why you're reaching out to them and why you like to have them assist you. Most of you have all of you have companies coming onto campus with and offering workshops or webinars and things of that nature. Just like I said before, preparing in advance by researching the company, the speaker, and their industry is be really helpful to you. So definitely attend, and I would say engage, because this is such a natural networking opportunity that you just can't let it go. And if for whatever reason you weren't able to connect with the person, that's a natural opportunity to say, we weren't able to connect. I was hoping to speak with you, but can we connect now on LinkedIn or what have you? Um, Obviously, campus career fairs are an absolute must. Everything I've said about preparing in advance comes here, including having your elevator pitch prepared, those 5 to 6 things that you want to get across. And then being really prompt with your sort of professional courtesy, following up with thank you emails or LinkedIn messages. And one of the things I want to comment about when interviewing or following up with someone is express clear interest. This, I could talk about this for about 10 minutes, but this is really impactful. When you have interviewed for a job and the interviewer or interviewers are uncertain if you how interested you are in the position, how likely you are to accept their offer, you are not likely to get that offer. So you want to let everybody know that you've spoken to, thank you for your time. I'm really interested in this opportunity. I would be so happy to be part of your team. And down the line, every 5, 6 people that you meet with, you end it that with that every time. Especially if you're a little shy. Maybe English is your second language or something like that. Let them know, express clear interest because that's attractive. Oh, they want to work here. I like them too. And when you don't hear that as an interviewer and there's any question in your mind, you oftentimes do not get the offer. I think I'm going to just jump ahead and talk a little bit about LinkedIn very briefly. Um, First of all, LinkedIn is another good source. There was that question about, the technical skills in Excel and Power Query. I don't know if there's one on LinkedIn Learning, but this is often free through your university partnerships. So I don't know if it is with your universities, but they have their own courses, and it touches on all the things we're talking about here. So leverage that as one of your free resources if it's offered through your university. Um, these days your LinkedIn profile, I mean, that is your online resume. It's on your online CV. And you can again go to LinkedIn. I mean, I have some tips here, but LinkedIn will give you the tips that tells you how to write a really attractive profile for your LinkedIn profile. So just let LinkedIn do the work for you. Keep it current, and then try to stay active within reason on your LinkedIn profile. And then about 6 months ago, I checked out to see the LinkedIn jobs section, and they had 460 actuarial internships in the United States. Sorry, I didn't look in Canada, I guess. But I'm sure there's quite a few, many dozens available in Canada as well. And you can set up job alerts, etc. So it's just a great tool. And this is the way a lot of people get hired. It's the way people network. It's the way people learn about jobs. So starting as a freshman, start building out your LinkedIn profile and make sure it's nicely aligned with your resume as well. So I'm just gonna stop there. I think well, I have this slide here. I'll just let you know that no matter where where you go in your career, all of these things that I'm saying, they're still true. I mean, it doesn't matter if you're 10 years, 20 years, 30 years into your career. You've got to be sort of investing in yourself, investing in, your networking and that'll create a lot more opportunity for you. So I have plenty of time for Q&A, so it's up to you guys. And we do have a lot of free resources. Again, as a benefit corporation, we try to offer lots of, I think maybe you guys use a lot of our free formula sheets and things like that. This is my book here, Actuarial Exam Tactics by the youngest FSA ever. I think Roy Jew was 21 when he became a fellow. So he has a great free ebook that he worked with us to create it for free for you guys.
Okay. Thank you so much, Bill. I'm one of the ACTEX users too, so very grateful those services exist for actuarial communities. And I do see two questions on the chat. The first one is sometimes I find it hard to build a strong enough connections when networking, and in returns, I wasn't able to stand out among others potential candidates. How should I go about this?
Hmm. Okay, don't forget about the 5%. Too. I said 5% is other. So search for that a little bit. The other thing you can do is send me your resume. I'm going to give an example that covers both. There's a young man from uh, the New England area here, and he reached out, friend of a friend. He networked, and he got in front of me. And I said, okay, send me your resume. And I was like, oof, okay. So I helped him with his resume and needed a bunch of work and but we talked it through and I realized, in fact, I have examples before and after. He had built more than he was showing on his resume. And he wasn't really doing, he wasn't being introspective enough to think about flipping it. Who's my audience? What skills are they looking for? And so when he was talking about some of the different positions he had held, um, he wasn't bringing out the most powerful points. So we worked on that. And then he had a bunch of things at the bottom, and they were just sort of personal hobbies. Okay. Well, one of them was mushroom foraging. And he had been struggling to get a job. And I'm like, okay. Well, Trey, I was like, maybe mushroom foraging should go. I was like, people might look at that and be like, wow, nice guy, but I'm not so sure. So um, he said, really? He said, I get more questions about that than anything else. And I said, oh, interesting. I said, okay. And I know he's a straight arrow. He's not not somebody doing psychedelics, because I know, how he came through to me. So we talked about it a little bit, and he was saying how he sometimes talked 20 minutes about that. I was like, well, Trey, that's part of the problem. Like you've got to have other things to talk about. So we've got to work on your resume, and we can do only so much. You've got to keep building your brand. And he's restarting like their actuarial science club. It kind of fell off. So he's showing the initiative and now taking leadership, and he's restarting so he's doing some things on his own, developing some skills, but he also brought out some other aspects of his resume. So I said, okay, let's leave that on. Let's cut down some of these other things. And I'm not kidding you, within a month, he had his internship. And it was just improving his resume, putting on some things like, even though they hadn't really even probably had their first meeting yet, he put on that, he was resuscitating the actuarial club, and I know the woman who runs the program, and so I knew that that was going to be happening. So anyway, that 5% can sometimes be good, but in his case, they were talking too much about it because he didn't have anything else to really discuss with them, and so he got put in the no pile ultimately, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's definitely
Yeah.
depends on the context, right? It'd be good to know you do mushroom foraging as a friends, but not in a professional context. So for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, and then
Yeah.
I guess go to the next questions. Are there any online virtual events you recommend for networking, conference, etc.? I have some friends who are unable to go to in-person events due to accessibility concerns.
Um, um, there might be one next fall with proactuary.com. They're considering it would be an online student conference. And that, but I don't know that that's been, uh, it's certainly not available to sign up for yet. That would be like in October or something like that. It's just somebody I know who, runs Pro Actuary. Um, I do believe that, again, some of the CAS might cover that, some of the CAS Student Central, because you will be, kind of interacting with professionals more on the property casualty side, which is super exciting. I don't think there's any downside to that. Um, the SOA does some lunch and learns. You might have some opportunity. Sometimes you might have to work a little harder at. So let's say you do a lunch and learn from the SOA. Then you follow up. Hey, I really loved, your presentation. I found this really interesting. Um, and, you follow up with a question, or is there any way that, I could learn more about that? Or do you have any openings, coming up this summer or this fall, or, you know what I mean? So you can maybe create some opportunities, even if there aren't these giant sort of student networking events that are online. Um, I think just by proper follow-up, I think that might be a good way to do it. And yeah, I think case studies are another, in competitions, have some opportunity for that.
Gotcha. That makes sense.
Mhm.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
then the next questions we have here is how many actuarial exams do you recommend completing before getting your first internships, along with having leadership experience, etc.?
I don't think it matters too much. Um, I believe if you're pursuing something like Intact and everybody's like, throwing their resume in there, then you'll probably need more. If just because they'll have a bigger pool to choose from, and they've got to make some hard decisions somewhere. We can't talk to everybody. But when I was at ASNA, I saw plenty of smaller firms that would be a fantastic place to intern or start your career. And they're probably getting a fraction of the number of applications as Canada Life. Um, and who cares? Like that's wherever you start, you start. So if you're, only pursuing the big name companies, Deloitte and Canada Life and all that, then, you're gonna just you're never gonna probably stand out with based on your exams, but you'll probably need more to be in the game, you know. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. It's important to get your foot in the door and try real get a real experience first, then consider exams, progressions.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I think this is the last questions we have on the chat right now. Are there any other credential like Bloomberg Finance course, VEE certificates, specific side projects that can help boost our chance in landing an internship?
Um, I'm not familiar with Bloomberg's courses. The VEE is obviously, sort of tailored, right, sort of as like prerequisites, so to speak, for actuarial science. We offer VEE courses. I don't, unless you, need, I wouldn't pursue the VEE unless you really need it. Then of course you have to get it. I think it's more that you're going to be looking at skills that are directly relevant. So I'm thinking Bloomberg is not going to be as relevant. It might be more economics, corporate finance, investment, things of that nature. At this early stage, like while you might want to be doing something in the investment space, quantitative finance, you just may not get that option, early on. You might have to go to a PNC employer or some or health insurer or something like that because that's just what ends up happening. So I wouldn't spend my time there. I would spend time on Excel skills for sure. Like that's really good. Python is good, but nothing's more universal than Excel. So I would focus there if I had to pick any one particular skill.
Gotcha. Yeah, that absolutely makes sense. And I guess to close up, for one final questions, looking back, is there any, oh, why do you have a questions? Do you want to just speak it out?
Hey there, I would love to speak out if that's all right.
Yeah.
Um, I was going to ask, so I just finished up my first year at the University of Calgary, and so I'm kind of like starting to build out my personal skills and my communication and technical stuff, and I'm really interested in case competitions. I just have nowhere to start. I just don't even know where to begin looking. So if you have any recommendations on even where I could begin to look, I would be really grateful.
Yes, I have Nardine on our company is compiling a list of some of those. It's not an exhaustive list yet. We've only been working on it maybe like a month or so. But I'm gonna write myself a note and should I send it to you, Sue, or to Amy? I could send it to either of you or both of you, I guess. I have both of your emails. And then who should Wyatt reach out to? Or you could distribute it to others.
Yeah, we'll have a list of the registered participant for the sessions, and we can just mass sending to all the participants here.
Okay. So I will get you the list that we have right now, and hopefully in a year's time, if I'm invited back, we'll have a bigger list.
Sure, sure. We're looking forward to that.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Yeah, I guess that's it for our sessions. Thank you, Belle. If there's any questions from the audience, feel free to raise your hands, type in the chat or just speak it out. But thank you, Belle, for these amazing sessions. We definitely learned a lot, and it's very insightful for all the first year students or students that's finding internships, building their personal brands. We also want to thank you, the Canadian Institute of Actuary, for supporting us throughout the year. But if there's no further questions, that's it from our sessions. And free Okay, we have one more question from the chat. Uh, Let me put it up. So, would you say that firms look at grades along with exams, which is valued more?
Hmm. Which is valued? Yes, the answer is yes, they do. Um, which is valued more? I don't know. You know what? I don't look that much at grades. So I guess that's my bias. But if I was doing campus recruiting, I would be looking at grades. So I'm sorry that I don't have I'm not a campus recruiter. And you know how many years I've been doing this? I've almost never gotten that question. I mean, I've almost never gotten that question. So I'm sorry that I don't have a good answer. I personally don't look at it that closely, but I'm not a, human resource person trying to, take a large pool and winnow it down. So um my guess is both are important, but hopefully not critically important. I'm not someone who, um, uh, I tend to focus more on the program. If it's a really good program and I'm there recruiting out of it, like I feel really good about those graduates. Yeah.
Yeah, gotcha. That makes sense.
Mhm.
Sorry, just one last question. I got one through direct message. Would you say that it is better to CG a grade or have a lower GPA in terms of when you're applying for internships?
I didn't understand the CG a grade.
Yeah, so sometimes you can get credit for a course without like having the GPA displayed on your transcript. So would that be better if it, or would like a lower grade be okay?
Um, Boy, very focused on the numbers and the grades and the passing exams, which is what I'm trying to say. Don't focus that much on that. Um, I would say it probably depends on what it is. If it's a C in um in physics, I'm not as concerned as if it's a C in, life modeling or something like that, so, financial mathematics, and you have a C, then I would, but if then you went and passed the exam, FM, then I'd be like, well, okay, I would ignore, I wouldn't be that focused on that. So it might depend a little bit on where it is, but it's just one input. my sense that, if one grade is going to hold you back, um, I don't know, you even want to work at that employer. I'll be honest with you. It's like take the whole person into account. And I think that most employers do that. So if there's somebody who's really worried about one bad grade, um, I don't know. That to me is indicative of a hiring manager that I'm not so certain I'd be excited to work for. So I'm just being really, honest with you, because, I went to, good schools and performed well. But, did I get a C, I don't know, I'm trying to think of the course. Yes, I did. And, did it hold me back? It didn't. And did it, impact my ability to like kill it in my first job? No. So I have a little bit of maybe a chip on my shoulder, like, okay, yeah, so I got a C in, I don't know, organizational behavior or something like that. But
That's good to know. Definitely a lot of things to consider. And with that, I'll pass it over to Sue to end the session.
Okay, while I'm closing it up, there's more questions. Feel free to pop in the chat or just speak it out. But thank you, Bill, again for those amazing insights and trying to pass as much information as you can to all those participants in the sessions. And thank you, Canadian Institute of Actuary, for all the supports along the way. There's no more questions. We can close up the sessions. Feel free to leave the rooms or ask any questions at this moment. But yeah, thank you so much and have a good evening.
thank you. It's been my pleasure, and I really, really appreciate the opportunity. So thank you, ASNA and the CIA, and hopefully we'll speak again.
Likewise. Thank you.